My true story. From Pennsylvania. I raised their children for 10 years. On my birthday, they took a cruise without me. I took the title deed instead. Mama, here, she said, tossing a folded slip of paper at my chest. Buy yourself something sweet if you really need to celebrate. It fluttered to the ground like a dead leaf. I bent down, picked it up, and stared at the bold red print. A grocery coupon. $2 off a red velvet cake. Valid Monday through Wednesday only. Today was Friday. I looked back at her, standing there with her designer sunglasses perched on her head like a crown, her luggage zipped tight beside the door. I left $5 on the counter, too. That should cover it, she added, already turning away. I did not speak. I turned to my son instead. He stood with his keys in his hand, rocking slightly on his heels, pretending to check the time. I didn't need much, just a look, a word, a sign that I was more than invisible. But he didn't flinch. He didn't even meet my eyes. Old hag deserves it, he muttered under his breath, just loud enough for me to hear. The words settled into me like dust, slow and heavy. Outside, the kids were already climbing into the car. One of them called for Tofu. The little dog skirred past my feet, tail wagging, eager to join the noise. Then he stopped and looked back at me. Ba's got you Tofu? My grandson shouted, She'll take care of you while we're gone. My son waved without looking. My daughter-in-law called out, Don't let him eat anything weird, and make sure he gets his walk. He's been shedding from stress. And just like that, the front door closed. The engine started. They were gone. I stood there holding the coupon. My hand trembled a little, but not from age. I walked slowly into the kitchen. The silence in the house had a different tone now. It wasn't peace. It was abandonment, plain and sharp. The cake sat on the counter. I had made it that morning. Just like I always did for birthdays. Chocolate with dark fudge frosting. My late husband's favorite. And mine. I had baked it before I knew they were leaving. Before I realized I wasn't invited, I cut a slice, sat down, ate without tasting. The crumbs stuck in my throat like the memory of something I'd rather forget. My eyes drifted to the fridge where a wrinkled $5 bill was pinned under a grocery list. I stood, walked back toward the narrow hallway, and entered what they called the Nook. Once upon a time, it was a laundry room. When I moved in 10 years ago, they said it was just temporary, said they would convert it into something cozier, more comfortable. They never did. The washer and dryer were still there, stacked in the corner like sentinels. I kneeled slowly, wincing at the ache in my joints, and pried up the loose floorboard beneath my bed. My fingers found the plastic-wrapped folder I had hidden years ago. I pulled it out, stood, and brushed off the dust. The name on the front was still there, engraved in faded gold. Ruth Annette Simmons. I opened it and stared at the document inside. It was the original title deed purchased in 1982. My name and my name only. Back then, my husband and I had just paid off the last of our debts. We used the settlement I won from a wrongful termination case. Years of back-pay, enough to put a down payment on this very house. We bought it together, but it was only my name on the paperwork, he insisted, just in case. He'd said, So you always have something that is yours. Even if the world forgets who you are, they had forgotten. Or maybe they never knew. Maybe I never told them. Maybe I thought that if I just loved them enough, if I gave everything, my time, my savings, my silence, they would remember that I was more than the woman in the Nook. But paper remembers. Signatures do not forget. I closed the folder and held it to my chest. I walked back to the kitchen, past Tofu curled on the floor, past the cold slice of cake I hadn't finished. I placed the folder on the table, smoothed it flat. Then I taped the coupon beside it, and the $5 bill just above. I stared at the absurd altar I had just made. My birthday gift, a deed, a coupon, and a crumpled bill. Outside, the sun had started to set. I pulled open the curtains. The front yard was quiet, the neighborhood empty as if holding its breath. 7 days. That was how long they would be gone. 7 days was enough. I didn't need cake. I didn't need candles. This year I would give myself something better. This year I would give myself back. I never planned to live with them. When John passed, I thought I would stay in the little house we built together. Quiet, modest, filled with photographs and hand-me-downs with a rose bush in the back that bloomed twice each spring. But things changed quickly. The water heater broke, the roof started to leak, and the nights felt colder without his breathing beside me. My son called 2 weeks after the funeral. He said, "You shouldn't be alone, Mom. Come stay with us for a while until you feel better. I wanted to believe it came from love. I wanted to. When I arrived, they showed me the laundry room. It's not much, my daughter-in-law said, gesturing toward the cramped space tucked behind the kitchen. But it's quiet, and at your age, stairs might be tricky. There was a cot with a thin blanket, a shelf of detergent, and a curtain strung across the doorway where a door used to be. I'll be fine, I said, because that's what mothers say. I didn't move in with them to be a burden. I came to help. She was pregnant with their second, overwhelmed by the first. He was working long hours and the baby cried through the night. I offered to take over the 2 a.m. feedings, then the 5 a.m. ones, then all of them. Before long, they stopped setting alarms. When she went into labor early, I stayed home with the toddler. When the toddler had colic, I carried him around the house in circles until my back ached and my arms went numb. When she went back to work, I did the drop-offs and pickups, packed the lunches, signed the permission slips, sat through cold bleachers at soccer games and late-night science fairs. She lost her job the 3rd year I was there. The company downsized. She was devastated. My son took on more hours. Money got tight. They whispered about bills at the dinner table when they thought I couldn't hear. I started paying out of pocket. Small things at first, a field trip, new shoes. Then one day the preschool called to say the tuition was past due. I paid it. I didn't tell them. I just wanted to help. But once I did it once, it became expected. My Social Security went to daycare, then to after-school activities, then to summer camp. When the car broke down, I handed over my savings. When she needed a new laptop, I used the emergency fund I had set aside for hospital bills. They thanked me the first few times, but thanks like milk expires. After a while, I was just part of the machine. Quiet, reliable background. They started referring to the house as theirs. Our home, she would say to her friends. We renovated the kitchen last fall, knocked out the wall for more light. I painted that kitchen. I cleaned that wall before they demolished it. Once I asked gently, "Do you still have the deed?" She waved it off. "Somewhere in storage. It's just paperwork. Ruth, not Mom, not Grandma, just Ruth." The boys grew. From soft-headed toddlers to eye-rolling preteens. I helped with math homework, baked cookies for school fundraisers, stayed up late to sew costumes they forgot to mention until the night before the play. I was there for every milestone, every loose tooth, every flu, every heartbreak. But children learn from what they see. One afternoon, I overheard my youngest grandson on the phone with a friend. "She lives in the laundry room," he said, laughing. "Yeah, no, she's not like part of the family or anything. She's just old." My parents didn't want to put her in a home. I sat in that laundry room for hours after that. No knitting, no TV, just silence. I stared at the detergent bottle on the shelf above me and the water stain in the ceiling that shaped itself like a heart mocking me. It wasn't the boy's fault. He was just repeating what he had heard. They called it helping when I cooked 3 meals a day, helping when I folded laundry that wasn't mine, helping when I stayed home on holidays so they could travel. But it was never help when it came back the other way. When I caught the flu, I made my own soup. When I fell in the yard, no one noticed until dinner. When I asked for a ride to the doctor, she said she'd see if it fit her schedule. One Christmas, they gifted me a used sweater with a tag still on it that read, "To Grandma. Love daycare staff." They must have forgotten to check. I smiled and said, "Thank you." Anyway, 10 years passed. Not once did they say, "You've done enough." Not once did they ask, "Are you okay?" Not once did they offer to fix the cot that squeaked every time I turned in my sleep. And every time I felt like saying something, I remembered the house I paid for, the house they lived in, the house they were slowly trying to erase me from. But paper remembers, and so did I. I had just finished rinsing the dinner dishes. The boys were upstairs arguing over a game. My son had disappeared into the garage like he always did after eating, escaping the table and the weight of shared silence. She was on the phone in the living room, pacing behind the couch, her voice low and clipped. I was about to head back to the laundry room, my nook as they called it, when I heard her say it. "If the house is still in her name, we can't refinance anything. It's a mess." I froze, one hand still damp, the dish towel slipping to the floor. I leaned slightly toward the hall, careful not to let my shadow stretch across the doorway. "She has no idea," she continued. "She thinks we're doing her a favor by letting her stay here, but the mortgage company won't approve anything unless the name matches the applicant. She's not even on the loan form, just on the damn deed." A pause. Then my son's voice, muffled but sharper. Well, figure it out. I'll talk to her after the trip. Just act normal until then. Act normal. That was what they were doing. I stepped back slowly, my heels silent on the tile. I didn't cry. I didn't storm in. I didn't confront either of them. I had spent too many years staying small in my own home to suddenly fill the doorway now. Instead, I went to my room. There, beneath the cot, under the loose floorboard, I had reinforced myself with an old table leg and a prayer, was the black folder, the one I had not opened in almost a decade. The folder still smelled faintly of the cedar chest it once lived in back when John was alive. Back when we kept our documents safe, not because we feared our children, but because we believed in the future. I flipped it open. The pages were all there. The original deed, the tax documents, the receipts from the title office, my name etched in ink that had not faded. Not even a co-signature, just me, Ruth Annette Simmons. In 1982, we had bought this house with cash from my wrongful termination settlement. I was a secretary at the insurance agency downtown. When I got pregnant with our third child, they replaced me. No warning, just gone. I sued them. Won, and bought this house as a promise to myself that I could lose things and still build something new. John had insisted it stay in my name. One day he'd said, "This might be the only thing protecting you." I thought he meant from strangers. I never dreamed it would be from our own blood. I took the folder into the kitchen and laid it flat on the table. Then I turned on the old desk lamp in the laundry nook and began writing down everything I had overheard. The next morning, while they were out grocery shopping, I found the drawer in the home office where they kept their financials. It was unlocked, careless. Or maybe they thought I was too old to snoop. There it was. A refinance application half complete. Typed in my son's name. No mention of mine. No permission requested, just assumptions that I was old, that I would not understand, that I would not notice. There were sticky notes attached. Need signature here, one read. Have Ruth sign after cruise. After cruise. That was the plan. I placed everything back exactly as I had found it. Every paper, every note. But I took a photo of the application with my phone. I may be 75, but I know how to press a button. That afternoon, I called Harold. Harold used to be my husband's attorney back when John still handled things like wills and taxes. He had retired, but he still picked up when I called. "Ruth," he said, his voice cracking with recognition. "It's been a while." "Too long," I replied. "I need a favor and some clarity." We met 2 days later at a diner on the edge of town. I brought the folder, the photos, and my fears. He read everything twice. "You're still the legal owner," he confirmed. "They can't do a thing without your written consent. Not legally." "What about occupancy?" "You're not a tenant. You're the landlord. You have full rights." I sat back in the booth. The waitress topped off our coffee. The sun was setting through the dusty blinds, painting Harold's white hair with gold. "I need you to make a copy of everything," I said, "and hold it just in case they try anything. And if I don't come back for it," I said, "send it to my cousin Lillian in Ohio. She'll know what to do." He nodded. "You thinking of kicking them out?" "Not yet," I said. "Not yet. Because I was not ready. Not yet." But I was remembering now. I was remembering every whisper behind my back, every sigh when I asked a question, every time they laughed louder when I entered the room, as if trying to drown me out, every time they spent what I gave like it was theirs to begin with. And most of all, I remembered the look in my son's eyes when he said it. Old hag deserves it. Maybe I did. Deserve this moment. Deserve to see them clearly at last. Deserve to stand on something I built with my own hands and savings and suffering. I tucked the folder back under the cot that night. But I slept with a different kind of silence. Not defeat, readiness. I woke up early that morning. My body acted like it always did. Slow to rise, slower to move. But I had plans. Quiet ones. The house was still empty. They had left 2 days earlier. Their luggage stuffed with matching outfits, sun hats, and promises of self-care. The boys had waved goodbye like they were going off to camp. No one said anything about my birthday. That was fine. I cleaned the kitchen first, humming an old tune that used to make John tap the table with his fingers. Then I pulled out the cake mix, chocolate again from scratch. Not because I expected anyone to eat it, but because baking still made me feel human. Still reminded me of the days when I made things people actually wanted. I folded in the eggs, poured the batter, and waited. The oven clicked softly, its heat filling the air like memory. I laid out a tablecloth, an old one from our first Christmas here, and lit 2 candles, not 75, just 2, for hope and for stubbornness. Dinner was simple: roast chicken, steamed carrots, mashed potatoes. I made enough for everyone. Even though it was just me and Tofu, the dog sat under the table, yawning between bites of kibble. I ate alone, chewed slowly, swallowed carefully. Each bite felt like a compromise between dignity and habit. When I opened the drawer to grab the matches, I found it. A birthday card, colorful, glittery paw prints along the border. I smiled for a second. My heart lifted like a balloon just starting to rise. Then I opened it. Happy birthday to the best dog in the world. We love you, Tofu. It was signed with the boys' names. A paw print was stamped in the corner in purple ink. My hands didn't shake. Not this time. I folded the card in half, placed it gently on the plate beside the uneaten chicken, and blew out the 2 candles. No one had remembered. No call, no text, no message slipped under the door in guilt. I sat there a long time, staring at the flickering wick smoke curling in the air. The kitchen grew darker. The shadows crept up the walls. Tofu whined once, then settled again. I pushed my plate away, stood, walked to the nook. I took out the notebook, the one with the blue cover and bent corners. Inside, I wrote slowly, 1 line at a time. I was born on this day, 75 years ago. My mother screamed and prayed. My father smoked outside. They said I was stubborn from the start. I tried not to be. The letter was not long. 3 pages. A record. A goodbye. A soft exhale of a life that had become smaller and smaller, like a room with shrinking walls, but I could not finish it. Halfway through the last page, I stopped. There was something unfinished, something louder than grief, louder than silence, a pulse, a truth, a question. Was this all? Was this how it ended? Invisible in the same home I had built, discarded on the same floor I had mopped, erased inside the same walls I had painted with love and sacrifice. No. I stood up, walked to the table, looked at the dog's birthday card again, and I laughed. For the first time in years, I let myself laugh. A dry, bitter, hollow sound like leaves crunching under old boots. They had remembered the dog. They had printed his name in glitter, and they had not remembered me. I took the card and taped it to the fridge beside the $5 bill in the coupon, my altar of reminders. Then I went to the closet, pulled out the file folder, sat down, and opened my laptop. I began to type. Not a letter this time, not a suicide note, a plan. Because I was not done, not yet. Because somewhere inside this house was a woman who had worked 40 years without complaint. A woman who had fed generations. A woman who had built her name on paper, in ink, in sacrifice. And I would not let that name vanish in the laundry room. They thought they had 7 days to rest. I had 7 days to rise. The next morning, I called Harold again. This time, my voice didn't tremble. My hand didn't hesitate on the keypad. I gave him the details calmly and clearly, like I was reciting a grocery list. He listened without interrupting. At the end, he said only, "Come in, we'll get this handled." His office was smaller than I remembered, tucked behind a strip mall between a nail salon and a used bookstore. He had retired technically but still kept a desk, still helped the clients he cared about. I was one of them. When I arrived, he stood and hugged me gently. "I'm sorry you're going through this, Ruth," he said. "I'm not sorry," I replied. "Not anymore." I handed him the folder. He opened it on the desk, spreading out the pages like a puzzle he already knew how to solve. "So, you're still the sole legal owner," he confirmed. "The house was never transferred. They've been living there under what's called informal familial tenancy, meaning you let them live there. You can also tell them to leave." I didn't flinch. I nodded once. "I don't want a fight," I said. "I don't want police. I don't want yelling or drama," or I paused. "Tears." He smiled gently. "Then we do it by the book. You issue a termination of tenancy notice under the Pennsylvania landlord-tenant law. You give them 30 days to vacate. You're not evicting. You're reclaiming. It's clean, it's legal, and it's quiet. Quiet, just like me." Harold drafted the letter right then and there, typed it slowly, letting the words fall like stones into place. It wasn't cruel, it wasn't angry, it was just final. "Dear Mr. and Mrs. Simmons, this is formal notification that your informal teenie at 147 Hazel Ridge Lane is hereby terminated effective 30 days from the receipt of this notice. Please remove all personal belongings and vacate the premises by that date." The letter was neutral, but I wasn't done yet. I want to transfer the house, I said. Harold looked up. To whom? I handed him a name I had written on an envelope. The John Simmons Scholarship Foundation, I said. I've already applied for nonprofit status. I want the house to become a temporary residency for students who've aged out of foster care. The deed should reflect that it's no longer family-owned. No descendants? No Simmons bloodline. No heirs. He blinked. You're sure? I'm sure. He sat back and let out a low whistle. Anyone see this coming? That's the point. We prepared the paperwork over the next 2 hours. He explained everything, every line, every clause, and I initialed slowly, deliberately. I had spent my whole life signing permission slips for field trips, liability waivers for summer camps, co-signing their dreams. This time, I was signing for myself. When the last document was complete, Harold placed it in a stamped envelope. Where do we send the termination notice? They're on a cruise, I said. Caribbean. I have the ship's name and itinerary. They're stopping in St. Thomas next. Harold raised an eyebrow. You want to deliver it there? They deserve to be somewhere beautiful when they learn they no longer live somewhere they've desecrated. He nodded. Then we'll send a certified copy to the ship's mail ROP and another to their email accounts. We'll cover our bases. I left his office feeling something strange. Lighter, not vindicated, not yet, but certain. The sun was warm on my skin. I stopped at the bakery and bought a chocolate cupcake with a little swirl of frosting. I sat on a bench outside the post office and ate it slowly, licking the icing off the spoon like I used to when I was a girl, and the world still felt honest. That night, I cleaned the kitchen one last time. I packed a small overnight bag, just enough for a few days with my friend May, who had a cabin near the lake. I fed Tofu. I left a note for the neighbor, asking her to check in on him. Then I went to the fridge. I took down the $5 bill, the coupon, the birthday card for the dog. I folded them carefully and placed them in a box labeled remains. I didn't cry. I slept deeply. When I woke, the sun was already climbing and a copy of the termination letter was waiting in my email inbox with Harold's message attached. Delivered 30 days starts now. I made tea, sat in the quiet, and began to wait. The first thing I heard was laughter, high-pitched, carefree, echoing through the driveway like music from a world I no longer belonged to. Car door slammed, wheels rolled against concrete, keys jingled. I sat in the kitchen, calm tea steeping beside me. The letter sat on the table, unopened, not by me. I already knew what it said. It waited for them. They burst through the front door just like they always did, like it was theirs. My daughter-in-law's voice rang out first. God! I missed our kitchen. The food on that ship was awful. I'm never trusting Yelp reviews again. My son followed, dragging 2 oversized suitcases. He kicked the door shut behind him, then stopped. His hand was still on the handle when he saw the envelope. What's this? He asked, squinting at the heavy cream paper with the embossed return address. She didn't wait. She snatched it off the table, tore it open like it was junk mail. I watched her face change, confusion, frown, panic. She read faster, then slower, as if speed could change the meaning of what she held. My son leaned over her shoulder, took it from her hands, scanned it. His jaw clenched, his ears flushed. What the hell is this, Mom? I didn't rise. I didn't flinch. It's a notice of termination, I said. You have 30 days to leave. His voice cracked. You're evicting us? No, I said. I'm reclaiming what I built, what you tried to steal. She stepped forward, waving the letter like a flag. You can't just kick us out. This is our house. I looked around slowly. Funny because it still has my name on every legal document. She shook the letter in my face. We made this a home. We repainted. We remodeled. We made it livable again. And in return, I gave you 10 years of labor, I said, my voice still steady. I cooked. I cleaned. I raised your children. I paid your bills. And then you planned to take what was left. That's not true, she snapped. I didn't respond. I stood. Walked slowly to the end table in the hallway, opened the drawer, and pulled out a small voice recorder. I pressed play. My own voice was faint. Then hers, unmistakable. If the house is still in her name, we can't refinance anything. It's a mess, then my son. We'll figure it out. I'll talk to her after the trip. Just act normal until then. The room fell into silence. She turned pale. He didn't move. You were spying on us, he whispered. I was listening, I said. There's a difference. He exploded then, his fist slammed against the table. You're destroying this family over a house, over a technical. I stared at him. My son. The boy I had once carried on my hip through hospital visits and school plays. The man who had watched me sleep on a cot beside a washing machine and said nothing. You think this is about a house? I asked, my voice firmer now. You think I'm doing this because of drywall and deed records? He didn't answer. It's not about a house, I continued. It's about the fact that I once believed you had character, that you would never reduce your mother to a signature on a refinance form, that you would never speak of me like I was just another problem to be handled quietly. She tried again, softer this time. We didn't mean it like that. We were under stress. No, I said. You meant it exactly like that, and that's why it matters. She looked down. He crossed his arms, still seething. I stepped forward. You have 30 days to go where? He snapped. To any place that will accept people who think their mother is disposable. Her voice cracked. Then the kids, what are we supposed to tell the boys? I picked up the recorder, turned it off, and returned it to the drawer. Tell them the truth, I said, that their grandmother finally stopped waiting to be respected. He looked at me like he didn't recognize me. Maybe he didn't. I wasn't the old woman who folded laundry and swallowed pain, not anymore. I stepped aside. 30 days, I repeated. They left the room without another word. I heard them upstairs arguing, their voices muffled by walls they once believed were theirs. I walked into the kitchen, poured myself another cup of tea, and watched the sun begin to fall behind the trees. Tofu sat beside me, tail wagging as if he knew. Maybe he did. Dogs sensed the turning of tides. That night, they didn't come down for dinner. I didn't call them. I slept deeply. No dreams, just peace. The kind that comes not from victory, but from clarity, from truth, from knowing that silence, when broken with purpose, can be the loudest sound of all. It was nearly midnight when I heard the soft knock at the side door. 3 gentle taps, familiar, hesitant. I knew that rhythm. It belonged to my grandson. I opened the door quietly, and there he stood, shoulders hunched, hoodie pulled up as if hiding from the night or himself. Can I come in? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. I nodded and stepped aside. He followed me into the kitchen, the same kitchen where I had once fed him oatmeal when he had the flu, where I had held him through thunderstorms, humming lullabies no one remembered but me. We sat at the table. He looked at his hands, twisted his fingers. Grandma, he said, why did you do it? Why now? I reached into the drawer near the fridge and pulled out a weathered envelope, one I had kept hidden for decades. I slid it across the table toward him. He opened it slowly, the creases cracking like old bones. The letter was from his grandfather, my late husband, written nearly 30 years ago. If there comes a day, he read aloud, when your voice no longer carries weight in your own home, then use it louder. Take back your place. Do not vanish. Do not shrink. You are not furniture. You are the foundation. He looked up at me, eyes glistening. He wrote this for you. He knew, I said, even before he died. He knew this world forgets women like me unless we remind it. He swallowed hard. I didn't know they were treating you like that. I just thought it was normal. You were a child, I said gently. But children grow up. They choose what they want to see. He hung his head. I guess I didn't want to believe it, he whispered. I didn't want to see you sad. I wasn't just sad, I said. I was erased slowly, kindly, conveniently. He reached across the table and held my hand. For a long time, neither of us spoke. Then he said, They're saying you hate us. I smiled faintly. I don't hate anyone. I just stopped waiting to be loved properly. A few minutes later, he stood to leave. At the door, he turned back. Will you ever come back? I never left, I said. Not really. I just stopped being quiet. He nodded, tears threatening again, and then he was gone. The next morning she came, my daughter-in-law. Her eyes were red, her hands shaking. She stood at the front door like someone standing at the edge of a cliff. Please, she said, her voice. I know you're angry, but can we talk? I said nothing. She stepped inside. We have nowhere else, she said. The boys, they don't understand. Mark he's furious. But me, Ruth, I'm begging. I know we were wrong. I know. I looked at her, really looked. The woman who once called me extra luggage, the woman who gave me chores instead of kindness, The woman who threw a coupon at my feet and called it a gift. I don't want to be enemies, she said. Can we stay? Just until we figure something out. I swear we'll change. I walked past her to the hall closet. From the top shelf, I pulled a photo frame. It was a picture of this house in 1982 when the paint was fresh and my children were young. When I thought love meant giving until I disappeared. I handed it to her. Then I said, I was invisible in this house for 10 years. I lived in a laundry room, ate alone, cried in silence. Not one person asked if I was okay. She wiped her face, trembling. I'm sorry, she whispered. I don't need apologies, I said. I need boundaries. But where will we go? That, I said, is not a question I ever got to ask when I moved in. She opened her mouth, then closed it. Finally, she said, You'll regret this. No, I said softly. You will, because one day your boys will ask why their grandmother vanished, and you'll have to tell them the truth. She turned and left quietly without slamming the door. I sat in the kitchen and looked at the chair across from mine. It was empty. But I wasn't. Not anymore. Because memory, I had learned, was not a burden. It was a weapon. And I had finally remembered how to use it. The house on Hazel Ridge Lane no longer belonged to any family. Not the one I raised, not the one that buried me in silence. It belonged to the ones who had no one else. A new sign hung above the gate now. I paid extra for the lettering, told the craftsman. I wanted it bold, dignified, not flashy, just honest. Ruth's Heaven for Children, forgotten by family. The house had been repainted warm yellow. Curtains I picked myself now framed the windows. Inside there were bunk beds and a quiet room for studying. A shared kitchen and on the mantel a framed photo of John and me our wedding day. His eyes squinting in sunlight, his arms slung over my shoulder like I was his whole world, because for a time I was. I moved into a modest apartment on the edge of town. Just enough space for me and a bookshelf. No laundry machines humming through the night. No footsteps above me, no cold dinners left uneaten. Peace, I found, does not need grandeur, just space and truth. Each week I received letters from the scholarship recipients, young souls who aged out of the foster system with nowhere to go. They called it the Yellow House. They sent hand-drawn cards, essays, photos of their first report cards pinned with pride. Some called me Miss Ruth, others just called me Grandma. I kept every letter in a carved wooden box beside my bed. The first winter was quiet. Cold, yes, but not the kind of cold that lives in your bones. It was the kind that made tea taste better, made you pull the blanket tighter, and smile at the sound of your own breath. One Tuesday morning in early spring, I found a new envelope in the mailbox. The handwriting was messy, uneven. It was from my grandson. Inside, a single sheet of lined paper. Grandma, I am sorry. I know now what I didn't want to see. You weren't just there. You were holding us all together. I wish I had said thank you before it was too late. I miss you. I understand now. Love, E. I read it once, then twice. Then I folded it carefully and walked to the small table where John's photo stood. His ashes rested beneath. In the urn, he picked himself with that same old smirk. I placed the letter beside it, lit a candle, and whispered, I am not a shadow in my own home anymore, darling. Outside, a bird sang. Tofu lay curled at my feet, older now, but still watching me with those soft, knowing eyes. I poured myself a cup of tea and let the quiet remind me. Some goodbyes are the beginning of everything true. Thank you for listening to this true story, one that took a lifetime to find its voice. If it moved you, if it reminded you of your worth, or of a silence you once swallowed just to keep peace, know this: you are not alone, and your story is not over.